Now, there is an ongoing fight in Nyanza between the governor of Omollo County, Gladys Wanga, who is also the chairperson of the ODM party, and the PS Interior, Raymond Omollo. Now that residents feel that Raymond Omollo is the reason why development has gone to that side of Nyanza. Yet, in the previous political arrangement between Wanga and the late Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Wanga is been celebrated, or has been celebrated rather, for being the governor that has championed devolution in this phase of 2022 to 2027. So in this episode, we'll put before the mirror those infights that are being witnessed in Omollo and the reason beneath them. But before that, let's take a look at the 2-day, now the 48-hour in the tour that President Ruto has been taking in the United States of America and what has come out of it. If you're joining our channel for the first time, or if you've been here for quite some time, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you. We have hit the 1,000 subscriber mark that we had been asking our subscribers to help us arrive at, and we couldn't have done that without your help. So thank you so much. And if you're joining us for the first time, maybe this also could be your channel for political commentatorship. Just hit the subscribe button. Now let's delve into these particular stories. President Ruto, sometimes back, around 48 hours ago, jetted to the United States of America. Two topics were of concern in this particular meeting. The first topic in concern, or of concern in this particular meeting, was the Congo and Rwanda deal over the Congo fight that has now since claimed over 10 million lives. Other than that, there was also the signing of the Universal Health Coverage Deal, the Universal Health Agreement that was signed between Mudavadi and US Secretary Rubio. Now, these two occurrences have happened within just 48 hours of this tour, and in this episode we want to take a look of some of the things that have happened as a result of these other two key events, and then now we'll take a look at the political story that we have introduced between Raymond Omollo and Gladys Wanga. If you take a look at this deal, Ruto is celebrated by Trump as having done something monumental. And also Ruto himself celebrates Donald Trump in his speech as someone who has, through his leadership, done something monumental. Of course, Nairobi was of very key interest in signing the peace deal between Rwanda and Congo. And so Donald Trump, who has been trying to see to it that the war in Congo comes to an end, witnessed the ending of that war when the president of the Republic of Rwanda and the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo agreed to sign a peace deal. Now, Nairobi, that has been a central position in this particular peace deal, also was represented by President Ruto, who is also doubling as the chairperson of the East African community. You know that this regional bloc has faced a regional imbalance for quite some time. Remember, Sudan has the RSF thing going on. Kenya has witnessed demonstrations in a span of 2 years. Tanzania right now has witnessed demonstrations over the transition politics and have even more demonstrations scheduled with the ICC putting their concern over there. Then there was this Rwanda versus Congo issue, which has claimed now over 10 million people in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And now the arrests that have also been witnessed and arbitrary detention in Uganda and such like place. So the East African bloc has witnessed a regional imbalance over the past 5 years and within the span of that year. And Ruto, that sits as the chairperson of the East African Committee, was an important key player in this particular peace deal. Now, in his speech, President Ruto, of course, celebrated Trump's clarity of character and bold leadership in ending this Rwanda-Congo fight. The region that is part of the EACC, of course, as I've said, has witnessed tension. Then another thing that happened was the signing of the health framework arrangement. Now, this was very interesting because it seems like it was the primary thing ahead of the Congo-Rwanda deal. So another thing that happened was the signing of the Universal Health Framework Agreement. In signing this Universal Health Framework Agreement, this was done by Prime CS Mudavadi and the US Secretary Rubio. And so let's delve a little bit deeper into this particular Universal Health Framework that Ruto, not as a politician but as a head of state of the Republic of Kenya, signed with the Republic of the United States of America. So US Secretary Rubio says that previously they have been working with NGOs and they have seen that once they come up with a particular particular idea of helping a nation, then they contact a particular NGO to go to that nation and implement that idea that the United States of America has of helping a particular nation. They have witnessed certain things happening. Among them is the fact that the money that ends up to these particular nations that they decide to help is so minimal compared to the amount that they set to help these nations. So they are saying once they use an NGO, then the money that ends up in an African country ends up to be fewer compared to the original amount that they intend previously to hand over to those countries. Then there's also the aspect of NGOs having parallel health plans compared to the health plans that they have stationed for these countries. They say, for example, they can come up with an NGO to facilitate end of malaria, for example, in Somalia, but then how the NGO is going to facilitate implementation of the program in Somalia is inconsistent with the health policies of Somalia as a country. And so as a result of that, Secretary Rubio was saying that they can't go ahead helping countries in the east without working with those countries directly. He's now defying the idea of using NGOs to actually help African countries, saying that moving forward, if there is any aid that is being championed to the African states, they will do that directly. Of course, there's also the aspect of $1.6 billion, which is now the major thing that people have been talking about. This is the major sum of the agreement. So this money is supposed to be given to Kenya in a period of 5 years, $1.6 million, to ensure the implementation of this Universal Health Framework Agreement. And the first bit of it is around 850 million. That is going to be handed over to Kenya once the presidential trip comes to an end, and it will be the money that will steer this deal up. So $850 million will come back with President William Ruto after this trip, and the rest of the 1.1 something that will remain, $1.1 billion that will remain, will be now spread through. And the rest of it now that will remain, of the $1.6 billion that will remain, will be now spread across the 5-year period between Kenya and United States as a result of this agreement. Now, another thing that is important out of this Universal Health Agreement is the fact that Kenya is the first host country to try this program. They're saying that they have like 50 agreements that they want to sign with other countries, that is, the United States of America wants to sign with other countries, and they are celebrating having signed with Kenya as the first pioneer country. Secretary Rubio is actually hopeful that after doing this with Kenya, Kenya will steer on now the program moving forward, and Kenya will implement this particular program and even be a pioneer teacher to other of the 49 states that they will also sign this agreement with. So they seek to help eastern countries with their health framework as part of the universal health coverage, and Kenya is the primary host country that this particular arrangement between the United States of America and the African states is being done. So they also insist that this particular program is not to just buy medicines, but this program is in place to ensure also the fact that there is also infrastructural development towards universal health coverage. So it will not just be money for medicine, it will be money that will go on into implementation of building of hospitals, into creation of other health facilities, and also even into payment of doctors to ensure that universal health coverage is implemented. So Ruto thanked them. And Ruto almost made a mistake of calling Donald Trump Joe Biden. That was very interesting, and he picked up quite fast because he's still adjusting to the fact that it's not Joe Biden anymore as the president of the United States of America. It's Donald Trump, and it's like Donald Trump took a whim of it, but slip of a tongue is something that is normal when people are making speeches. Now, the most interesting bit of this whole thing is this: we hope that now when this money lands, the $850 million that will be the pioneer near amount of the part of the 1.6 billion that will be given to Kenya in a span of 5 years. When this money comes, now the issue of implementation of SHA, the issue of county officers going on strike, county doctors rather going on strike, the issue of now health coverage still being a thing that is not accessible to most Kenyans will come to an end. And of course, now while this was going on, there was also celebration of Kenya by Secretary Rubio for having taken a very key part in the Haiti war, which President Ruto still commits they will not come out of Haiti. So in the larger spectrum of it, the challenges that President Ruto has been complaining about, challenges that include not funding Haiti, not helping refugees, and now US cutting key fundings into health like HIV/AIDS program under USAID and such like things. By the time it's going to come out of the American tour, we hope that those particular issues now will be settled into the fact that US now backing their Haiti support and perhaps will lobby for the same under the United Nations, and the fact that US has now leashed out 850 million US dollars as part of a 1.6 billion fund that is to ensure development of healthcare in Kenya. This will still see now the facilitation of HIV/AIDS medication, such like shortages that existed as a result of cutting fundings through USAID. And another thing is that now this money will be coming directly into the government without any NGO becoming as a middle person. Now here's where the issue of accountability will also come into play. Whether or not this money will be used as it's supposed to be will now be a Kenyan problem, but will not be an international United States issue when it comes to funding and donor fundings that were previously cut. Now that aside, we have seen that there was also talks of Congo. Of course, Donald Trump himself talked about the key play of Kenya into the Congo issue, and also the fact that over 10 million people have since succumbed into that particular Congo matter. So Trump welcomes Ruto in 2028. Other than Secretary Ruto, so other than the US Secretary Rubio's statements on that particular universal health coverage, there was also the statements of Donald Trump himself. And Donald Trump was just first, appreciating countries that took a center stage in ending the conflict between Congo and, Rwanda. And even the United States of America was also thanking those two presidents of Rwanda and Congo for coming into a compromise to sign a peace deal to put a stop to this particular war that had since ended the lives of over 10 million people over the period that it has been going on. Other than that, referring to Kenya, really, Donald Trump just appreciated our athletic prowess and say that looking into the Olympics now, Kenya is, going to be, there again. And he was just saying how he has been watching, the track and how our athletes have been doing quite an amazing job over the time that they have been in the Olympics. And in 2028, of course, the Olympics will be in the United States of America. Now, there is this something that most UDA supporters are now taking as, a preposition that Donald Trump has supported President Ruto's bid post 2027, because Donald Trump's welcomed Ruto in 2028 Olympics, saying that, there will be Olympics in 2028 and Ruto is invited to go to those Olympics as the United States of America's guest. So now UDA supporters have read into it much and now are saying that, this is a plan that the United States of America is already backing Ruto's second term bid. But that was not directly what Donald Trump says. We just report as it is without any bias. If it's read that way, then that's up to the reader. But Donald Trump just invited President Ruto in his capacity perhaps to join the Olympics in 2028, or perhaps in the capacity of President Ruto as the president of the Republic of Kenya, if the people of Kenya decide to choose him again post 2027. Now that story aside, let us go to the fight between Wanga and Raymond Omollo, which is now the political heated thing in the Nyanza region. Now, There is a PS for Interior called Raymond Omollo, whose political journey has not taken the path that most ODM politicians' journey have taken. And for most ODM politicians' journey, it has been a journey of tear gas, maandamano, demonstrations, Raila Odinga's support to gain the might over the people in the Nyanza region. For Raymond Omollo, his rise into power did not take that path, and so his influence over the Luo people has suddenly come to arise in the position that he serves right now as the PS for Interior. Now we want to take a look at what is causing the conflict between Governor Wanga and Raymond Omollo, and what is the way forward now that Raymond Omollo has told Governor Wanga that her time is up. Residents now attack Wanga for allegedly attacking Raymond Omollo, and there was even a staged demonstrations in Kisumu where residents went on the streets against Wanga for disrespecting Raymond Omollo. And now residents in Homa Bay have also spoken directly in the media spaces. They say that Raymond Omollo have brought more development than Wanga in that region, and that the leaders are now attacking Wanga's utterances, where the utterances are based on attacking Raymond Omollo. So Omollo is a rising person within the Nyanza region because of the influence that he has by being closer to President William Ruto, and also by serving in the position as the Interior. So whereas there is this arrangement between the ODM party and President William Ruto, Raymond Omollo's agreement, or rather a friendship with President Ruto, had existed prior to this ODM arrangement. And so whereas the ODM people are coming with their demands on the table in the face of 2027, Raymond is also now carving his own path within the Nyanza region as a person that the Luo people can rally behind in 2027 and beyond. And so this is causing friction because, you know, within the ODM requirement, ODM requires that when they're getting into this power deal with President Ruto in 2027, the term is that they are given the deputy presidency position and nothing else. And that is why Wanga has been being groomed, or rather being presented as the person that if Ruto looks the ODM way to get a DP to replace either Kindiki or to rally behind Ruto in 2027 and beyond, then Ruto would most likely pick Wanga. Now in the turn of events, it's turning out that Raymond Omollo's influence is becoming supreme over this arrangement of ODM and Wanga, and that is what Wanga does not take lightly. So as we're taking a look into this thing, Ruto, instead of using Wanga to get the intelligence of the Nyanza people, Ruto is using Raymond Omollo to get the intelligence of Nyanza people, and his influence is coming up so slowly. Now you see, this is playing into sentiments that have been made by other politicians, including Rigathi Gachagua, that there is a systematic way to weaken ODM and render it irrelevant come 2027. Because if Ruto can control the narrative and the intelligence of the locals of Nyanza through Raymond Omollo without using the ODM party, then why does he need the ODM party? And so the position that Raymond Omollo is playing at puts Wanga irrelevant and renders the party irrelevant, and that is something that Gladys Wanga of Homa Bay County is not taking positively. Wanga feels that the control of Omollo is not warranted, and she feels this way because Omollo has not gone, as I said again, through the traditional way of power acquisition in Kenyan politics. And so whereas Omollo did not go through the ODM doors, Omollo did not go through Raila Odinga, Wanga feels like Omollo's influence in Nyanza, if it was to overdo or surpass every other person that went the Raila way, would be unwarranted. And that is one of the ground causes of this fight. So it's on these underlying reasons that ODM now demands for nothing other than DP, because they know that if any other person would rise around that area without the ODM influence, and that person would be closer to President Ruto, then the position of ODM in the national seat will be rendered dwindled. So an introduction of Raymond Omollo confirms Gachagua's story of a move to weaken ODM, just like I've said. And Wanga, who sings hallelujah to the state house, feels like Raymond Omollo's inclusion in this area is so bad. Now you see, it's so bad that Raymond Omollo was quoted to be supporting Aroko in the concluded contest between Aroko and Boyd Were. And right now it is so bad that he was quoted saying Wanga's time is up, and is fronting his brother under the UDA party for the position of governor in Homa Bay in 2027. And the most interesting part is that he's is seeking to take the current deputy of Wanga, Oyugi Magwanga, to become the deputy of his brother in 2027 against Wanga's own backyard. So this is going to be so interesting. This will be the power ground and the power testifying again, just like a Sipul, but on a bigger scale now at the county level, where Wanga's influence will be tested against the brother of Raymond Omollo, and it will be ODM versus UDA, both in the broad-based arrangement, and the people will decide. So Raymond is now fronting his brother, as I've said, with the UDA ticket in that area, and Kisumu residents have taken it to the streets when Wanga actually insulted Raymond Omollo. So ladies and gentlemen, that's very interesting. That is the cap that is coming out of this fight. It's so bad that people are saying that Wanga even requested the State House to look at the position of Raymond Omollo. If Ruto uses Raymond Omollo to gain the Nyanza influence without the need of the ODM party, the influence of Wanga and the ODM party will be relevant by 2027. And all the prophecies that exist that ODM party was being weakened to be considered irrelevant will come true. Another thing is that these individuals that are clinging into ODM to hold power in 2027 and beyond might find it very hard to sustain their political mights because the power of the party will be weakened. So now, the young members are being wooed to join DCP, and the older members of the party are contesting who really should be what in the leadership of the party. But other than that, an independent person that has previously been a UDA friend for quite some time, Raymond Omollo, is penetrating through all this noise to become the handman of Ruto in the Nyanza region moving into 2027 elections. Here at the People's Mirror, we will keep our focus in it and keep you updated on anything that comes out of it. Until the next episode.